The year 1947, after the war, the American Foreign Minister George C. Marshall initiates a reconstruction program for the Western European economy, the so-called Marshall Plan. The U.S. pilot Chuck Yeager with a Bell X-1 was the first person to officially break the sound barrier. Marilyn Monroe, who later became a Hollywood icon, shot her first movie. And Enzo Ferrari built his first own car in Maranello, the Ferrari 125 Sport. It's more than just a car, it's a religion on wheels, Ferrari. Ferrari is the most fascinating brand in the world, and each model fully fueled with myth and magic, and always travels with a touch of Schumacher. Ferrari is the only brand that has a certain something that others are still looking for. At the top, the very top, there's always only one, and that's Ferrari. So far, no one else has yet managed to get there. Many have tried, until now, no one has managed it. Without Enzo Ferrari, there would be no myth and no Ferraris. He not only saw technical devices in his cars, for him they were like living beings with an inner life, and he was their creator. No one doubts that Enzo still has his hands today on every model. Enzo Ferrari, founder and patriarch, learned the fitting trade early in his father's business. But the young plumber had bigger things in mind. He wanted to be a racing driver and applied to the touring car maker Fiat to be a factory driver, and was rejected.
I remember that I saw a photo of Rafael di Parma in the Stampa Illustrata, if I'm not mistaken, exactly when he won the Indianapolis 500. And I said to myself, he is Italian. Why shouldn't I also be a racer one day? Everything I did to achieve this was influenced by this childhood dream.
Moderately successful as a racing driver, as an inventor and tinkerer, a genius. In 1947, Enzo Ferrari sent his self-built 125 Sport onto Italy's racetracks. The 12-cylinder held the competition at bay from the start. In 1948, a Ferrari won a Formula One race for the first time. And in 1950, the Formula One World Championship was introduced. The Scuderia Ferrari is still the only team that has participated every year. Ferrari is obsessed with car racing. His street cars are only a means to an end for the Commendatore, and with them he made the money for the expensive races. But Enzo knew that he could only make money with beautiful cars, so he put more value on good design. Enzo Ferrari stands over everything. No matter which corner of the company one looks, in which engine one looks, everywhere Enzo Ferrari looks at you. He was ruthless, goal-oriented, and his driving in comparison emotionless and hard as iron. Ferrari regularly played his drivers off against each other to drive them to excel, often push them to the death. But for the Commendatore, only success counted. And in this way, his cars won the prestigious Carrera Panamericana twice in the early 50s. After the war, all car manufacturers were busy rebuilding their mass production. Only Ferrari thought about and built race cars. Then the racer from Maranello had little competition to fear, and after the withdrawal of Mercedes, they win in all classes. The Ferrari legend picks up speed. dream factory Maranello. Quickly it was chic in the international jet set to drive a Ferrari. Exclusivity, sensuality, and the feeling of a racing car. It was only available directly from the Maranello factory, like with this 250 LM. In the 50s and 60s, no Ferrari was exactly the same. Almost every model was unique. Correspondingly, the old red metal is traded high today. In the selected circle of the money aristocracy, a Ferrari is just as stable as a Picasso in value. For the blue Mauritius under the red races, the 250 GTO, fantasy prices are offered. Current market price, $35 million. At the end of the day, the GTO with its 240 centimeter wheelbase signifies the Ferrari legend like no other. In the club of millionaires, races with historic Ferraris is now as befitting as polo matches. Here the value of the start fields are often greater than that of a Formula One race. That doesn't prevent a mature racing gentleman driving into the expensive fenders every now and again. In the early 60s, Ferrari almost drives itself into bankruptcy. Ford wants to take over the sports car manufacturer, and Enzo stops Henry Ford III at the last moment. He's insulted and builds the GT40 as a retort. The US racer ends Ferrari's incredible winning streak in Le Mans, and from then on, the Italians drive from behind at Le Mans. In 1969, Enzo Ferrari decided to go under the umbrella of the Fiat Group. But the ownership by a large corporation does not diminish the exclusivity of the brand, nor the fun of the models.
With this car, it is like this that the chassis is naturally tuned for comfort. That leads you to force the car into corners. The brakes are not like you require, as you would expect. It is not so easy, but it is just a joy for me to move this car at the limit, and that's always fun.
In the 50s and 60s, four-seater Ferraris like this 365 GT 2+2 were sold. And in the end, the typical Ferrari client wanted to share their wealth as well with as many co-pilots as possible. Ferrari recognized very early that the rich and famous would need to be clients, because by buying they brought the money to pay for his expensive racing activities, and he always courted them. To the long list of beautiful and rich Ferrari owners, amongst others are Steve McQueen, Ingrid Bergman, John Lennon, and the Prince of the Netherlands. Ferrari and Formula One belong together from the beginning, and no other team has been so successful. So far, Ferrari have won 31 driver and constructor titles, but the price of victory in red is high. 7 Formula One drivers like Graf Berger von Trips or Gilles Villeneuve crashed fatally in a Ferrari, but big wins and dead heroes are the stuff of which myths are written. One of the most famous Ferrari heroes is Jackie Ickx, who was runner-up twice in the early 70s. Formula One racing cars were for a long time aluminum boxes filled with gasoline, but no driver thought about the safety at that time.
We had the exciting opportunity again to return to the old Grand Prix circuit with this car, and it was fantastic. It was really fascinating, because today we are used to be able to drive safely everywhere, with runoff areas, etc. So we went with this car back on the old track. The circumstances under which we drove in the past are truly incredible. We accepted the safety standards at the time, because we were happy to be able to drive at all.
10 years after the last world title in 1964, Ferrari was still driving from behind the Formula One title. Until 1974, when Niki Lauda came into the team and won the honored trophy twice for the Scuderia. His near death at the Nürburgring and his incredible revival only 6 weeks later in Monza further contributed to the myth, Ferrari. Ferrari and Formula One have been inseparably fused together for 60 years, and Ferrari needs Formula One as the main image accelerator. But much more, Formula One needs Ferrari. I believe that Formula One without Ferrari would not only be half of what it is, but it would simply not survive. The Dino 206 is one of the most beautiful Ferraris, even though it was initially not allowed to wear the coat of arms of the prancing horse. It only has 6 cylinders under the hood. Its successor, the edgy 308, makes an international career for itself, not least because it's the star of the TV series Magnum. The Testarossa is recognized as the sports car of the 80s, and no one had seen such forms up until then. Commercially, it was a huge success for Ferrari. Over 10,000 Testarossas were built in various forms, the most successful 12-cylinder to have ever been built. A Testarossa today costs around 80,000 euros, but for this, there's also a free ride in Italy.
In Italy, it is of course really fantastic. The police are the biggest Ferrari fans. They push one to go even faster than the speed limit.
For many Italians, Ferrari is the pride of the country, and every precious piece of Maranello must of course be maintained accordingly. This also applies to non-Italians. Yeah, I don't put the car in the car wash. I'm very, very touchy and very picky, and I always like to have the car in tip-top condition, so that somehow belongs to the car, and like this, I think, it's not just a car. This is more. It's a driving feeling, it's emotion, it's love. And the worship goes so far that many Ferrari owners lift the brand with the prancing horse to the rank of holy sanctuary.
It's like a little religion. So Ferrari, red, engines, sound, technology is really something nice.
For their religion in red, the followers must be willing to make a sacrifice, because a Ferrari is not reliable or suitable for everyday use. This only changed in 1994 with the F355. The 355, here is a Berlinetta, behaves meekly and easily in everyday life like a Golf, till one presses the gas pedal, because an ESP is not on board. The Ferrari legend not only lives by the charisma of Enzo Ferrari, Ferrari also stands for success, emotions, and eros. Everyone who owns a Ferrari hopes that the splendor of the brand will rub off on him a bit. Men taking part in the Ferrari Challenge, a separate race series for Ferrari owners, believe they are bathing in the middle of the myth. Thereby, they drive their mobile wealth to challenge and don't let a bit of mobile scrap spoil the fun. The 1999 Ferrari 360 Modena marked the beginning of a new era at Ferrari. While Enzo Ferrari had always looked a little suspiciously at the comfort factor, in the 360, the driver is at the center. The 360 is the most successful Ferrari of all time. Together with the Spider, over 17,000 models have now been sold. The 360 Challenge Stradale is the street version of the race car, and it travels on the open road to the Nürburgring. The 360 and its successors, the distinguished 430 and 458, differ from their predecessors, which were the 355, 348 and even 328, in that they were really good cars. That is, they were all well made and they held so that you could also use them, so that a car like this could also easily do 100,000 kilometers with appropriate maintenance and without giving any trouble. Trouble belonged formerly to a Ferrari like to a diva. Many models were more in the workshop than in the garage. That fundamentally changed with the new mid-engine car series. The 430 Scuderia is the 490 horsepower answer to all Porsches and Lamborghinis. In 2011, the Ferrari 458 Spider arrived, and the roof opens as quickly as other cars need to sprint from 0 to 100 in 14 seconds. Spare no effort was the motto of the 458 Ferrari. It has 80 horsepower more power than its predecessor, the 430, a proud 570 horsepower. So, gear engine in combination is just a real beauty. Double clutch, that means the gears simply go through easily, and in pairing with the V8 engine in the performance class, wow is also the design. Like any modern Ferrari, the 458 also sticks to the road without wings. Maranello, Ferrari city near Modena and Bologna. The small racing car factory from Enzo Ferrari has long since become a big industrial company. Around 3,000 employees build the automobile dreams by hand and with high tech. Large coupes have great tradition at Ferrari, like this 2002 575M. With 12 cylinders and 4 seats, it also brings the typical Ferrari feeling for the small family. Legend's son, Matthias Lauda, knows where the weak point of the luxury coupe are, namely exactly where the most think its strengths lie.
Yeah, so this is a V12 from Ferrari. So the engine, I have to say, that's really powerful. Pulls nicely through from one to the bottom to the top. The only thing is you can see is that the engine is very, very large and very, very heavy, and that makes the car very, very slow.
Anything but sluggish is another 2+2-seater in the style of the classic GTs of the 612 Scaglietti from 2004. With a front mid-engine and transaxle, it drives as if on rails. An eye-catcher is the Ferrari 599 GTB Fiorano, which came out in 2006. The Gran Turismo only offers 2 seats, but 620 horsepower. The most important detail? A grab handle for the passenger. In the 80s and 90s, Ferrari experienced a seemingly never-ending drought series in Formula One. The Scuderia chased the title for 21 years. That only changed in 1996 when a young man from Kerpen in Germany joined Ferrari. Together with Ross Brawn and designer Rory Byrne, Michael Schumacher was able to once again bring the team to where, according to the belief of the Ferraristi, it belonged, namely, back at the top. Schumacher and Ferrari were an unbeatable combination, and from 2000 to 2004, they won an incredible 5 World Championship titles. Following the retirement of Michael Schumacher, the Scuderia succeeded together with Kimi Räikkönen to again bring the title back to Maranello in 2007, the last great moment of success. At the time, the Ferrari fans celebrated Michael Schumacher like a messiah. He was almost as important Ferrari fans as Enzo Ferrari. Michael Schumacher, of course, at the forefront, drew all with him under his spell and drove a few world titles, and that is, I think, the second legend after Enzo Ferrari. Michael Schumacher is perhaps the only person who has it, the Ferrari chromosome. Maybe none is as worthy as him to drive a Ferrari. In any case, he was the best image maker of all time for the Scuderia. A Formula One for the road, the best super sports car of all time. It's Enzo Ferrari's final revelation, the F40, a homemade gift for the 40th anniversary of his company.
La macchina da corsa per me è come un figlio. Quando lei pensa.
A race car is for me like a child. A child is the continuation of the meaning of our life and our history. You accompany your child to school, and on the day on which he is best in class, you are very proud. A designer feels exactly like that if he succeeds to make a living mechanic from unformed material a harmony of sound.
Enzo Ferrari died in 1988, but the anniversary series continues. The 1995 F50 has a Formula One engine at the rear. It is stronger than the F40, but no longer as wild. The Ferrari Enzo Ferrari moves under the name of its founder, a monster with 660 horsepower, which apparently is not particularly able to impress Michael Schumacher.
It is a bit different. It is, of course, a car that is fit to the road, but simply has the racing character.
The Enzo, the car with this race character, moves in a different dimension, in the dimension of Schumacher's former official car. Interestingly enough, the F40 was produced in a very, very large numbers for such a special model. And there were over 1,000 units built, still the benchmark, because it was the wildest car that was available at the time, and still frightening. Because of the turbocharger, because of the whole concept, there were at least 100 cars wrecked. Maybe the $1.5 million Enzo FXX with 800 horsepower is even wilder than the F40, but for that, there is no road permit. In addition to the 458, the California also belongs to the current Ferrari models. Because of its high comfort, critics also call it the woman's Ferrari. The Ferrari FF treads on completely new ground. It's the first Ferrari with four-wheel drive. Its 660 horsepower make the FF the most powerful four-seater in the world. The prototype of the fastest street-legal Ferrari ever was tested by Fernando Alonso. The braking effect is excellent in all conditions. When you accelerate out of the corner, the traction is exceptional, thanks to the great differential lock. I don't know what to say. Fantastic. An exceptional driving experience. Wonderful. La Bella Macchina, the Ferrari F12 Berlinetta. More Ferrari is not possible. The luxury coupe laps the company's own test track in Fiorino 2 seconds faster than the super sports car Enzo Ferrari. The great thing about the current top model at Ferrari, the F12, is that it always sets the performance of the previous special edition. That means an F12 entirely suitable for everyday use, also touring cars, now faster on the track than an Enzo. One must first dream a car, Enzo Ferrari once said. That may be the reason that every Ferrari is a real dream car, whether you can afford it or not.